folks, Dr. Robert Barrington here with some more nutrition advice. This video is going to be about grey hair and age-related greying of hair. I want to do this video because it does have an interesting nutritional link. I'm going to have to be careful with the title of this because I don't think I'm going to be able to come to any firm conclusions, but I wanted to just throw this information out. It might help you think about your nutrition. It might help you understand nutrition more. Whether you can actually reverse greying hair is controversial. So if you're looking for a cure for grey hair, this video won't be for you, and I don't want to waste your time. But if you're interested in how this process works and perhaps delaying the greying of your hair and perhaps minimizing the greying of your hair, that may be possible. So these are some nutritional strategies that could be used in order to be able to try and maintain your youthful coloured hair for longer. Let's put it like that. Hair is coloured by pigments that we produce in our skin and our hair. We have special cells called melanocytes. Now these melanocytes produce pigments, and there are two pigments that they produce called eumelanin and pheomelanin. Now the ratio of these two pigments in hair cells is what gives hair their colour. So there is a single melanocyte associated with a number of keratinocytes, and those keratinocytes are what actually produces the hair. Now during the anagen phase of hair production, which is the growth phase of a new hair, the melanocytes will produce a pigment, and they will produce a ratio of eumelanin to pheomelanin. Now eumelanin tends to produce a black browny colour, whereas pheomelanin tends to be a red brownish colour, and it's the ratio of those two colours that dictates your hair colour. So you can have anything obviously from blonde through red through all the way to a very dark black, and that's the ratio of those two pigments. Now these pigments are also what colours your skin. The difference in pigmentation in the skin is that the melanocytes, which are in the skin, are associated with more keratinocytes, and they continually produce the pigment. But in your hair, the pigment is only produced during that anagen phase of the growth of the hair, so it's not produced all the time. And this has an implication on how greying may occur, because our skin colour doesn't really change over time. As we get older, our skin colour doesn't really change, maybe small amounts, but you know, we generally keep the same kind of skin colours, whereas your hair can completely change colour. And certainly when some people are very young, they may have blonde hair. I certainly had very blonde hair when I was young. Then my hair went darker as I got older, and then obviously as I get older, I'm going to accumulate more grey hair. So changing hair colour is much more pronounced than you see in your skin, and this is related to the way that the pigments are produced during the growth phase, and how those pigments can then be affected by particular internal environments in your body. So we produce these pigments, and they go into the hair, and that produces your hair color. So why do you start to get grey hair? Why don't the pigments continue to be produced? Well, to produce these pigments, there are a number of enzymes. And this metabolic pathway is quite complex, but generally there are a number of steps. There is a precursor that is gradually converted through a number of steps into ultimately what will be the pigment. And two of those steps involve a hydroxylation of tyrosine, and there is also an oxidation of hydroxyphenylalanine. Now those two steps in that production of the pigments generate hydrogen peroxide. Now hydrogen peroxide can be converted into it's effectively a substance that can damage the cells, because it can be split into substances that become oxidizing. So hydrogen peroxide in your cell is generally a precursor for the generation of free radicals, and free radicals create chain reactions that damage cells. So the production of pigment is obviously good for your hair, because it creates the color in your hair. But the downside, the side effect of this, is that your melanocytes are exposed to very high amounts of oxidative stress. And current theories suggest that it's this oxidative stress over time that gradually damages the melanocytes, so they lose their ability to create the pigment. And there have been a lot of studies that have looked at studies that have experimented with free radical damage on melanocytes, and their structures change. Melanocytes form what's called a melanin producing unit, which is in the root of the hair, and that can have structural changes to it over time when it's exposed to too much free radical damage from free radicals. So this oxidative stress actually changes the structure, the morphology of this this pigment producing unit that's at the base of the hair, and then obviously within the cells they're becoming damaged as well. So this metabolic pathway starts to break down, and obviously you then have fewer and fewer melanocytes, which over time decreases the amount of pigment you have in your hair. Now I mean, common sense will tell you that grey hair is not the same as coloured hair, and this has been scientifically shown as well. Not only do you get a breakdown of the colour of the hair, you also get a decrease in the kind of the strength of the hair as well, and the phases that the hair go through tend to change. So the anagen phase, the growth phase, starts to become less, and therefore you start to get less strong hair as you get older as well. Now, when this process kicks in, there is obviously a genetic component to it. Some people grey a lot earlier than others, and this is related to the genetics that control these enzymes that control the pigmentation. But there is an environmental component as well, and there are many cases of people that very quickly become grey, and quite often they can be linked to stressful events. Now, the reason that stress can cause grey hair is because there is a process whereby stress hormones are released, and they result in the formation of free radicals. And this is also the same process that can cause mental illness and mood disorders such as anxiety and depression. So cortisol is a hormone, and it's a very complex hormone. It has some, we don't fully understand how it works, but it's a hormone that's released during a period of stress. Now, normally that cortisol has beneficial effects. It's designed to get you through that period of stress, so that when you come out the other side, you're stronger. That which does not kill me makes me stronger. It's almost like an adaptogenic hormone. That's what its purpose is. It changes the immune system, it does things to your brain, and it's there to help you cope with the stress. The problem with cortisol is when you're exposed to chronic stress and the levels remain elevated for long periods of time. Now, cortisol is thought of as, and corticosterone, which is the animal version of cortisol, is thought of as detrimental, but obviously it does have beneficial effects. We release it for a purpose, but it's this chronic stress that's actually damaging. Now, when cortisol enters the brain, it has a number of immune modulating effects, and what it can do is it can actually increase the production of cytokines, and these cytokines are highly inflammatory. So the end product of chronic stress is inflammation, and that's one of the end products. A very simple way of looking at stress is that chronic stress will produce chronic inflammation, and chronic inflammation is very damaging because one of the byproducts of inflammation is the generation of free radicals. And free radicals, when they create chain reactions, they cause oxidative stress, and that damages tissues. So for example, when you're stressed, these free radicals that result from inflammation, that result from cortisol, they can actually damage parts of your brain such as the hippocampus, and that can cause changes in your mood and create anxiety and depression. Now, the same can be said for other parts of the body. So they can cause detrimental effects on your heart, they can cause detrimental effects on your eyes, but they can also have detrimental effects on your melanocytes. And obviously your melanocytes are already very highly exposed to free radicals because of these metabolic steps that generate hydrogen peroxide, and they have very high levels of antioxidants in them in order to be able to cope with that hydrogen peroxide. However, one of those mechanisms would be, for example, the use of catalase, which can decompose hydrogen peroxide to make it into water. So it's a way of creating a safety net to protect those cells. If you're exposed to stress and the general oxidative stress in your body goes up, all of your body will be exposed to that oxidative stress, and this can tip the balance in favor of oxidation over reduction. So your antioxidant defenses aren't then enough to be able to protect you from the detrimental effects of that stress. And this is probably why when people are exposed to massive stress, some people literally go grey overnight. You can see within a week their hair starting to go grey, and that's very difficult to reverse once it's happened. That oxidative stress is very damaging. So do I believe personally that you can reverse if somebody had grey hair, they'd prematurely gone grey? Do I believe that you can reverse that nutritionally? I don't think so, because once those melanocytes are damaged through oxidative stress, I don't see a repair mechanism. I'm not aware of a repair mechanism that would be able to repair those cells. They're effectively apoptotically, they're killed. They're taken out of production. So apoptosis is basically an end result of oxidative stress. When the oxidative stress processes in cells become too great, the cell dies. It kills itself, and that apoptotic process kills the cell, and therefore those melanocytes are never going to come back. So once your hair has lost its ability to create pigmentation, I don't think it's possible to get that back. Now, there are certain exceptions to that, because there are different reasons why you can go grey. So, for example, in veterinary medicine, it's known that there are certain deficiency diseases that cause greying of hair. So it's known, for example, that a copper deficiency can cause a greying of hair. That's a different matter, because that is not due to the oxidative stress. That is due to a deficiency of an essential element. If you replace that essential element into the diet, that greying can be reversed. And this is where some people have thought that that would be possible to take nutrients to reverse age-related greying, and I'm not sure that that would be possible, because, like I say, the cell has actually been killed. So in age-related greying, it's probably very unlikely that once your hair has changed colour, you would be able to reverse that, short of dyeing your hair. There's certainly, I don't think, a nutritional way that you could reverse that. However, there are anecdotal stories of people whose hair have greyed overnight through stress, and then their hair has returned colour. So it could be that there is a window of opportunity in order to be able to reverse this process, that if you're very quick and you get rid of the stress and you eat a very healthy diet and your antioxidant levels go up, it could be that some of that, if you catch the melanocyte before it's completely dead, it could be that you can reverse this to some extent, but generally I'd say it's probably not possible. However, do I think it's possible nutritionally to delay greying of hair? Yes, absolutely. And the reason for that is because if greying of hair is caused by a general increase in oxidative stress, a high quality diet that provides lots of antioxidants, like all oxidative stress, like all disease related to oxidative stress, it will have a minimizing effect. So yes, eventually, if you're genetically programmed to go grey, you probably will go grey, but that is based on the amount of oxidative stress your melanocytes are exposed to. If you can minimize that by taking a healthy diet high in antioxidants, taking the correct antioxidants to be able to break down hydrogen peroxide, increase your catalase levels, it's very probable that you will be able to delay the dyeing. You'll certainly be able to delay the apoptotic effect in many of those melanocytes. So I think that is possible. What sort of diet should you take to be able to do this? Well, any of my videos will show you what kind of diet contains the right foods for you to eat. You need to minimize your exposure to unnecessary oxidative stress. Obviously, UV light is one of the greatest sources of oxidative stress we're exposed to. So don't burn in the sun, don't go out in the sun for too long. All the things that I've been saying, sensible exposure to the sun. And then at the same time, exercise can be a form of stress. So make sure that your exercise is controlled. You have an ability to recover after your exercise. Don't overtrain. And then exposure to things like toxic chemicals and other exogenous substances that we take in our diet accidentally, or through pollution, for example. Those can have a detrimental effect. So minimize toxins, minimize pollution, and then at the same time eat a very high quality diet that's high mainly in vegetables, but also in some fruit. Herbs and spices are excellent ways to get antioxidants. Then obviously make sure that you have all the essential nutrients, such as all the vitamins and minerals you need, by taking supplements where necessary, or superfoods that contain those nutrients in order to be able to provide them. And then you can look at other substances as well. Make sure you take enough vitamin C, make sure you take enough vitamin E, but also look at things like spirulina that contain high amounts of things like phycocyanin. There's many different antioxidants in plants. Plants are absolutely, they contain so many different types and such a high quantity of antioxidants. They're really where you should be looking to get your antioxidants for your diet. And you shouldn't be getting a single antioxidant in high amounts. You should be getting multiple antioxidants from different sources, so that they can work synergistically together, because not all free radicals are the same. Hydrogen peroxide is one type of damaging chemical. It can produce other, in a chain reaction of metabolism, when it's broken down, it can create the production of oxygen molecules, which can damage cells. But there are other types of free radicals, and each type of antioxidant will fit into that metabolic attenuation of those oxidative stress processes in different parts. So you need as many different antioxidants as possible. So a healthy, high quality diet, high in plant foods, mainly from herbs, spices and vegetables, with some fruits, trying to minimize damaging foods that create the generation of oxidation, and also trying to avoid pollution, trying to avoid too much UV light, trying to keep the balance of antioxidants high in relation to the amount of oxidative stress. And of course, this is something I've always said, trying to avoid stress. It's very difficult to avoid all stress, because some things you cannot avoid in life, but try and avoid the little things, the things you don't need to involve yourself in. Try and avoid those. Try and avoid a lot of the work stress that people get involved in. Try not to get into financial troubles. Try to keep your finances in order so that you don't put yourself in that position. I know it's very difficult, but you have to try your best to minimize this stress. Try and minimize your exposure to commuting stress. Or think about getting a job where you're maybe not exposed to that, because in the short term you can cope with it, but in the long term that's going to have a very detrimental effect on your health. That stress is going to cause mental problems, it's going to cause mood disorders, but it's going to cause you to prematurely age. And when you step back from it, that's the external visualization of the damage that's happening on the inside of your body. And that's the way I've always seen the graying of hair. Graying of hair is an indication that your body is starting to break down. It's starting to lose its capacity to be able to regenerate itself. So if you can delay that, if you can keep those grey hairs at bay for as long as possible, that's a very good indicator that you're actually maintaining your health. It's not always the case, because there are genetic reasons also for going grey, so it doesn't mean you're definitely unhealthy, but I've always seen that as a kind of an indicator. This age-related slow greying is an external visualization of the oxidative stress and the damage that is going on the inside of your body as well. So I hope you found that interesting. As always, eat well, stay healthy and protect yourself, and I will see you soon for another video. Take care.